Appreciate it. We'll start on the right, Carl.
Montrell's won his last 11 decisions going back to early July. Just from a pitching standpoint, what has allowed him to be so successful in that stretch?
I think a couple of things. He obviously does a very diligent job in preparing, but more than anything else, he's a very aggressive type of pitcher. He can shape the ball in many different fashions. He sinks it, he cuts it. He's using his curveball, so he can be somewhat unpredictable at times, as opposed to maybe if you look back a couple of years ago, it was easier just to prepare for a sinker. So I think he's evolved into a much more well-rounded pitcher with his repertoire.
Other questions? I'll go to the first row and then Hoynesy.
We just saw the amazing season that Aaron Judge had offensively, and the Yankees lineup, it's stacked. As a pitching coach, you guys plan to have what? I guess my question is, what approach are you guys kind of going?
Well, I think the first word that comes to my mind is respect. We obviously respect every opponent, every hitter in the box, and that stands true for, this series, not only Aaron Judge, but, the other 8 guys that we're going to be facing. Certainly we know what he's done this year. At the same time, he didn't come out of nowhere. He's been pretty good for a while now. So, we're going to attack him with respect, but we are going to attack him and hopefully not get in situations where he can beat us. We don't want that, but certainly we respect Aaron and the remainder of their lineup.
Of course, the last 2 games in the wild card series, you guys swept, but they were really hard-fought games, pitching duels. As the pitching coach, what do you see from Tristan McKenzie and Shane Bieber? I mean, we all saw how great they were, but from your standpoint, to carry on this playoff.
Yeah, I think, just the amount of calm, how they were able to control their emotions, their energy. For Shane, it was his second postseason start. You all remember the first. It didn't go that well back in 2020. But I think that experience, really helped him. And I think the fans really helped him tremendously as well, because in 2020 there were no fans due to COVID. And then with Tristan, it being his first playoff experience, still, again, I just felt like his warm-up and his pregame, there was a sense of quiet confidence that sometimes you don't see in a young pitcher their first postseason experience. So, we've kind of had a little bit of a saying that, we don't rise to the occasion because the occasion is every day. That's how we respect Major League Baseball and how privileged and honored we are to be a part of it. So, hopefully that allows for an even keel, and I thought they did a really good job with that.
Hoynesy in the second row.
Carl, have you had time to reflect on that 15-inning game and just, how well that your bullpen pitched?
Yeah, you know what, Hornsey, it was really special, and from man to man, it was just like handing it over to the next guy, and the same could be said for the Rays and their pitching staff, because they obviously did the same thing. If you go back and look at the game, 15 innings is 0-0, and really there were only a couple of situations where there were scoring opportunities. Kind of had the feeling that how the game ended is how it was going to end, with a home run from one side or the other, but just extremely, extremely proud of, if you look at the names of our bullpen, first of all, you have to be proud of the years they have had to this point. But in that situation, a playoff atmosphere and with high stakes, it was totally a proud moment for all of us.
We'll go to Ron next to Hoynesy.
If Shaw is active, are there any things to say or do before going in after almost 2 weeks not on a game mound, or is his veteran knowledge and presence enough to carry him through that?
Well, I think a couple of things to answer that. Number one, once he cleared waivers and made the decision, to stay with us, which speaks volumes about the person and the teammate he is. He has been getting work on the mound. So from a physical standpoint, he is ready. He's been here before in terms of playing in the postseason. He has sat in on our meetings with the Rays and the meetings with concerning the Yankees. So he's prepared and ready to go if that presents itself.
Go to Mandy in the second row.
Just to follow up on that, after that roster decision was made, you sort of touched on it, but what does it say about Shaw that he wanted to stay around the team, and just how important is that to have him there for such a young clubhouse?
Yeah, I think Brian, last year in 2021, we had some young relievers, Trevor Stephan, Nick Sandlin, those two come to mind, first major league experience. And I think just kind of leading by example, how Brian goes about his day, how he watches the game, how he prepares himself during the game. Young pitchers watch veteran pitchers and they learn from that. Brian, his first tenure with the Indians, Cleveland, I should say, was obviously very special. He made himself one of the best middle relievers, setup relievers in the game. And when he got away from Cleveland, I'm sure he would have liked for his career to have continued on that path or would have liked to have performed better. But I think there's a lot of comfort here with Cleveland, with Tito, the training staff, everyone involved. And he is truly a Cleveland guardian. And we're really, really excited and thankful he still wants to be here.
The third row on your right, and then we'll go to the second row.
Hey, Carl, two things. First of all, just to follow up on Judge, when you say that you're going to attack him, does that mean, all things equal, low leverage situation, you won't be pitching around him?
Are you going to tell him what I say?
I'll relay it back, yeah, directly.
We don't want to back down from anybody. At the same time, we're not going to be, stupid. I can't think of a better word for it. So, the situation will certainly dictate, how we pitch to him. But there are going to be times that we have to, and we'll be prepared to do that. So, again, there's the utmost respect for everyone that puts on a major league uniform, but certainly having a historic record-breaking year like he has had, he deserves a little more attention.
And very separately, you mentioned Stephan a bit earlier. He came from the Yankees. I think you guys got him before last year. Just how have you seen him develop over the last 2 years?
I think last year we saw flashes at times of what we have seen this year. It's just a matter of, gaining more consistency. I think he learned a lot. He learned about his delivery and how his delivery should work and does work now, but I think he learned about his body and the things he needed to do that our strength and conditioning staff, our training staff have been such a huge part of, that he put himself in a physical place to really go out and maintain Trevor Stephan's delivery. And what we've seen because of that is a lot of consistency and, at times electric stuff.
I'll go to the second row.
Carl, 3 years ago, Sam Hentges was a struggling starter at Double-A, and now he's kind of built himself into a trusted back-end reliever. Just can you take us through that evolution over the last few years?
Yeah, I think with Sam, and so I'll say by, having done this for a few years now, years ago, you cringe when you talk about possibly changing an arm action or changing a takeaway out of the glove. But, with advances and people learning, and so the plyo balls, the weighted balls, things that you can do. I think Sam worked so extremely hard to kind of clean up the arm action at takeaway to get himself in a good position as he started coming down the mound. And that's not easy. But he continued to work on it diligently, and all of a sudden, we have seen this guy command 3 pitches. Obviously, there's velocity. The curveball has really come into play here the second half of the season. And along with that, he's controlled the running game. I mean, he's made himself a complete reliever. And personally, there's no postseason all-star game, but if you look at what he has done through the entire season, he's an all-star. I mean, he's had a heck of a year.
I'll go to John in the third row.
In the last 2 weeks here, kind of as Judge was chasing 61 and then 62, a lot of the guys around him in the lineup happened to start launching some balls right around then, and Boone was speculating a little bit that maybe there was some attention things with the pitchers because of Judge looming there. Obviously, postseason series, everyone's going to be on edge the whole time anyhow, but how do you make sure that there's one spot in the lineup that doesn't attract undue attention maybe?
Well, again, it goes back to respect. And I think, having a young team, first of all, we're here to win. But at the same time, we want to make sure we enjoy the process of going about it. So we try to keep things simple. That's worked to this point. I have to tell you that our 2 catchers outside of our clubhouse don't get the credit they deserve for the work they do, not only in helping me and our pitching group prepare, but helping our pitchers. They're, in terms of game calling, receiving, throwing, they're the best in the game, and we appreciate them so much. So, we're going to go out and play baseball and, hope that the moment doesn't get too big.
Anything else for Carl? We'll finish up on the right. Jason.
Carl, curious, the different setup with the division series this year with the extra off day between games 1 and 2, how does that affect the way you can use your pitching staff early in the series? And by contrast, does it make any change having the potentially last 3 games all in a row like that?
Well, I think, certainly it allows us a little more flexibility with our bullpen, having a game, a day off, a game, a day off. Does create somewhat of an issue if you look at, getting the games 4 or potentially game 5, who to bring back. Obviously, your game 2 starter would be on short rest if you pitch a game 5. So there are a lot of things, to think about and digest. And obviously the weather can be a factor also. So, we try to plan, but we also know that we have to be able to adjust from day to day, and we'll be ready to do that if need be.
Carl, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll start with Ed in the back. We'll get you the mic, Ed.
Tito,
Hey,
how you feeling?
great, thank you. Oh, was that? Oh, I thought you were going to have a question.
That was the question.
No, I'm okay, thanks. Got both shoes on and seem to be trending in the right direction.
Other questions? Go to Hoynesy.
How big a loss is Sandlin?
Oh, I'll probably be able to tell you more after the series. I mean, they're pretty dangerous right-hand hitters. He would be what we would hope, a huge weapon. Obviously, that's not going to happen. I kind of feel more for him than, I always feel like we'll figure it out. Kind of feel more for him. It's a kid that, we all thought that Hedgie looked in and we thought that he had crossed him up. And because of the pitch comm, we thought maybe Hedges was looking for a different receiver or whatever, antenna, I don't know whatever you call it. Because he said that, he threw another 4 pitches and they were all still quality pitches. So that kind of shows you that the kid's out there hurt, but he's still competing. I wish, I feel bad for him.
Other questions? What else we got? On your right, Tito.
After the incident last time here with Miles Straw, do you think anything needs to be said to him, or has anything been said to him? I imagine the fans are probably going to get on.
I would assume they would. I mean, kind of hope they will. This is New York, man. That's part of the fun of being here. I mean, it's not like maybe the old stadium, but shoot, in the old stadium, it was like you almost wore it as a badge of honor, like during the national anthem. People would be like, you know, the size of my nose, the lack of hair. Like I said, it was kind of fun. It's not quite like that anymore. That was a long time ago. You know, Miles was kind of sticking up for one of his teammates, and I don't think, I'd be very surprised if that has anything to do with this series we're going to play.
So you haven't said anything to him before?
No.
Not about.
Other questions? Jeff, we'll get you the mic.
I don't know if you remember, we talked opening day back in Kansas City, and you were talking about how the pitching is going to be great. You're wondering where the offense is going to come from. You've gotten enough offense to get to the division series now. What has been the most pleasant surprise offensively for you?
Well, that day we talked, our lineup, I mean, if I remember correctly, we had Ahmed in the left. We had Bobby Bradley at first. We had Yu Chang at second. We had Jimenez at short. We are a little different than we were then. So that's part of it. You know, I mean, we are kind of what we are. Like, and we know it. I mean, we don't hit the ball at the ballpark very often. Thankfully, we do every once in a while, or we might still be playing. You know, it's a hard way to win. It doesn't mean you can't, and we're trying to prove that. We would gladly take 3-run homers. Just it's kind of not really how we're built right now. So you can either whine about it, or you can try to figure out a way to win. Fortunately, our guys are on board with, hey, we'll see if we can win.
Ron?
Can I drink this? Or is
Absolutely. Go for it. Oh yeah, you'll make people very happy
no,
if you
I'm
drink
just checking.
that.
I don't want to do something I'm not supposed to.
How does your job change at all with a younger clubhouse than what you do if you have a veteran group around?
We've tried to balance teaching, not beating them over the head when they make a mistake, but trying to teach. We've asked them to allow us to do that, and they've been great about it. We've done, as a staff, we've done more teaching, and that's for good reason. These guys, not only are we young, but I mean, you're seeing it across the game. Guys are getting to the major leagues with less AA and AAA experience than probably ever before. So, and again, we just have a bigger number of young guys. So you just continue to teach. The one good thing, there's a lot of good things, but one is when you tell them something once, they get it. That really helps.
And for a lot of these guys, this is the first time 162. And for a number of them, given the pandemic, last year was even the first time 144. How does that change their development?
Every single time we do something with this group, it's for the most part the first time. And, you know, again, I mean, this is the first time they've been in a, what do they call this? AL what?
Division series.
ALDS. So, I mean, they haven't done it before. Doesn't mean we can't do it. You know, I mean, I got asked that in May and June, July. That's just because they're young. It's not their fault. They're gaining experience as they go. Good part of it is they're competing while they're doing it. And they're doing a good job.
John in the third row, and then Ed.
It is a while ago, obviously, and it was across the street. But as you come in here for a postseason series, do you get to spend some time with some good memories thinking back on back then?
I do have good memories here. Don't get me wrong. I get so caught up in what we're doing now. I mean, like, that's why when people say, like, hey, when did you know the team was special? Or I don't think you got to wait till you get the last out of the last game. Like, I think our group is special now, and I enjoy going through it with them. You know, we have ups and downs. I know, you know, we have tough conversations, but it's a fun group to go through competition with. I kind of stay really in the moment. I preach it to our guys, and the reason I do is because that's what I believe in. but I do have good memories. I mean, the All-Star game here in 08, that was one of the most incredible things I've ever been a part of. You know, standing, they had me and the coaches, some of us were behind home plate, like kind of back by the screen. And as they were introducing all these Hall of Famers at like every position, I remember sitting thinking, what am I doing here? Like, it was incredible. And I was just really fortunate that I got to watch that, because that'll always stay with me.
Do a couple more. Ed in the back.
Terry, as you went through the dog days in August and September, I'm interested in what your emotions were as the White Sox never caught fire, the Twins collapsed. What were your emotions during that time in August and beyond?
Well, in August, I mean, we were into September. I think we were like 4 games over 500, if I'm not wrong. And so we hadn't pulled away from anybody. And the White Sox actually started to play a little bit better. And then we went head-to-head with them and did pretty well. But I don't think my emotions are kind of the same every day. If we win, I'm happy. If we lose, I'm not. And then I try by the very next day, regardless of which it is, to put it in the rearview mirror, because it doesn't help, and then move on. That's kind of how I've always been. And I don't think that's good. I'm too old for it to change.
Anything else for Tito? Jason, on your right.
Is there any difference in the way you approach a hitter the caliber of Aaron Judge in a postseason setting compared to a regular season game?
Okay, you certainly are. Your preparation is deeper and more in depth in a series like this. Saying that, every game we play is really meaningful to us. Like, we played them back in, was it April or May? It was early here. Those games are important. If I thought it was right or not right to do it then, if the situation dictated now, I wouldn't change it because it's a playoff game. If I thought it was right, I'd do it. Again, that's part of why they're good. Sometimes, though, you have to get good hitters out. If you keep walking people, you're going to give up runs.
And lastly, I was wondering, with the different format to the series schedule this time, with the extra off day between 1 and 2, does that affect how you use a pitching staff? And does it?
A little bit. If you're playing back to back, and maybe you're down a run or two, you might be a little hesitant to use your back end of your bullpen, just trying to chase a win. But if you have a day off, you're more apt to maybe use a guy that maybe you wouldn't. But then on the flip side, on the end of the series, they're back to back to back. And I know we have rain possibly coming, so it could be back to whatever. You get my point.
One last one for Tito. All right, Tito, thanks so much.
Guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for the Gatorade.